So let's start by going through the first Aliya of the day. This is the from our Aliya of the Day series, covering the new Sefer HaTorah, the new book that we're in, which is Shemot. And today we'll go through the first Aliya, and we'll cover all of the Hebrew meanings and a little bit of extra insight as it comes up. Okay? Feel free to comment and ask questions and chime in as you like. If you have a Bible with you and you want to follow along with that instead of on screen, today's Aliya is Shemot, that's Exodus chapter 1, verse 1 through verse 17. It's a pretty hefty Torah portion, but the first Aliya is not so bad. All right, let's get started. Now, I just want to make sure, on your screen, is the text clipped on the right side? Because on my TV, for some reason, it's showing that it's clipped. And I thought I had that resolved with the resolution. I just want to make sure that you guys are seeing it correctly. You can either type or respond if you see it, or if part of it is cut off or not. The right-hand side here, is that all visible to you guys? Shows okay? Okay, great. Baruch Hashem, that's good to know. Okay, so I'll just have to piecemeal some of the stuff as we go along. All right, so we start off. Ve'ele shemot ben Yisrael habaim mitzrayma. And what I've done to make it a little bit easier this time, I've followed the practice of the Hebrew Reader's Bible from Zondervan, and I've colored all of the proper nouns gray. I don't think I missed any, but I just scanned through and made them gray. So that should help you a little bit to not try to translate those words, because they're names, place names, people names, city names, etc. Proper nouns. So, what's this word mean? You know this. This is the demonstrative adjective, plural. Ele means these, right? And the vav is probably not going to be and here. You have to think what makes sense. Does it make sense to start an entire story and, right? So probably it's something like then or now. Now these are the Shemot Bnei Yisrael. So we have something happening here. You should recognize it. We actually have a construct chain. We have Shemot Bnei Yisrael.
Sure.
Exactly. So that's a construct chain. This word is in the construct, this word is in the construct, and this word is in the absolute. The last word is always the one that's in the absolute, and that is the word that will determine the definiteness of the entire chain. All right? So in this case, Yisrael is a proper noun, and proper nouns are always definite because there's no question about which country or which people they are. It's Yisrael in this case. It's a name, so it's definite. So that makes the whole chain definite now. So we're going to have to say the on these other parts of the chain. Unless it sounds weird in English, then we can get by without saying it if it sounds weird. Shemot, it's kind of hard to recognize as a construct form because feminine plurals often look the same when they're in the absolute form and then when they're in the construct form. Okay? So, these, and then to make it make sense in English, we have to insert an extra word here that isn't really in the Hebrew. Otherwise, we sound like cavemen. And so the word that we insert, I'll use a yellow line here, is or are or were. So these are the names of the children of Israel. Habaim Mitzrayim. Now this is nice because this is a word which we will discuss this grammatical concept today. This will be part of our new grammar material. So, Habaim. So ba, most of you know this word. Yeah, go ahead, say it.
To come.
That's right, to come. And most of us are familiar with the song Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, Hallelujah, right? Blessed is he who comes, right? And that's also like welcome, like mabuhay. In modern Hebrew, we say Baruch haba. If it's to a man, welcome, right? If it's a group, then you have to put it in the plural. So, habaim, this is the active participle form, so it's really kind of like an adjective. So, ba'im means coming, right? Like the coming ones, the arriving ones, right? And the ha, again, this is a little bit advanced grammar. It's okay if you don't wrap your mind fully around this, but I just want to expose you to it. The ha is like asher, like saying asher, which means it's the relative pronoun, who, right? So these are the names of the children of Israel who came. And I'm putting it in the past tense because we're reading a narrative here. We're reading a narrative. If it was now, and we knew it was now, then I might say who are coming, right? The participle in and of itself does not express time. If you've studied Ivrit Chadashah, modern Hebrew, get it out of your head. The grammar of modern Hebrew has less expressiveness, succinctly, than that of the Tanakh. The Tanakhit has more grammar tricks up its sleeve, so to say. All right? So, Haba'im, it takes from the time of whatever is established already in your verse, right? In this case, maybe I'm cheating a little bit because I already know it's in the past, right? We didn't just discover this scroll and we're not reading it for the first time. We know it's happening in the past. It's not saying now it's happening. So I put it in the past. Who came? Mitzrayim. And notice at the end here we have the hey locative. Mitzrayim means Egypt. Mitzrayim means towards Egypt. So it's implying who came, you could even maybe say in your translation safely, down to Egypt, right? They came towards Egypt. And now who is it? Eight, Yaakov, with Yaakov. So don't get confused. This is not the DDO. It's not the definite direct object marker. It looks the same, but this is actually the word with. With. So with Yaakov, Ish uveto. Literally it says a man and veto, and his house. Your pronominal suffix, which by now you should absolutely have these mastered, guys. All right, so if you don't have the pronominal suffixes mastered, add it to your homework for this week. It's a must. Hold on, I need to sneeze, sorry. Don't you hate that when you need to sneeze and it never comes? Sorry. So, okay. Beto means his house. Why is it veto and not beto? He's not vetoing anything. It's because this is a begad kafat letter, this beit.
Begad kefat.
Yeah, you got it. That's right. Begad kafat. Yofi. And so we're preceded by a vowel sound, oo, and so that makes us lose our little weak dagesh left. He left. So u veto. A man and his household. This is kind of idiomatic. It means like everybody, right? And then the next word is ba'u. This is a perfect verb, and this is technically, if you had just found the scroll and you did not know the Exodus story, the Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Yetziat Mitzrayim, then this would set the tone for how to translate this one up here. Because ba'u is perfect, and perfect we usually translate, unless we're in Psalms or wisdom literature, as past tense. So, or prophetic, if there's a prophecy happening, it can change. So ba'u means they came, right? So they came, we now know it's past, so that's how Haba'im is they came, those who came. All right. Verse Beit, verse 2. Any questions so far?
None.
Okay. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. That's an easy sentence. It's all proper names, right? So I'm not going to bother to translate. Verse Gimel, Yisashchar, Zevulun, Uvinyamin. Again, all proper names. Dalet, Dan v'Naftali, Gad v'Asher. Verse Hey, 5. Vayihi kol nefesh yotzei yerech Yaakov shiv'ihi nafesh. Okay. So Yehi means it will be. Vayihi means and it was. Or you can even be flexible and say and it came to pass. Oftentimes it's like that. So and it came to pass, or and it was. Kol nefesh yotzei yerech Yaakov. So I'm going to skip ahead here to the construct chain so that we can actually get the subject of the sentence nailed down first. And sorry I did green on the first one. I tried to make it blue, but it's not always clear. So Yerech Yaakov. So Yaakov is definite, so the whole chain is definite. So Yerech is something like loin, right? Like loin. So that means we have to say the loins of Yaakov. Right? The loin, literally, of Yaakov. That's my orange definite arrow, if you haven't picked up on the pattern yet. And here's the subject of, and it was, or it came to be. Kol nefesh, all, or every soul. Yotzei. The verb is yatsa. This is a bit tough because this is, actually I should have extended my thing over there a bit. Yatsa means to go out. In fact, the Exodus is called the Yetziat Mitzrayim, the going out of Egypt. Or if you're Ashkenazi, you'll hear them say Yetzias Mitzrayim. So here, that should be our chain. It's all part of the chain. So Yotzeim is an active participle that means they are going out, or the one's going out, something like that. You see? And I better not erase that. We'll do the whole thing. Okay, fine. So, Kol Nefesh Yotzei. I just realized the chain is even bigger than I thought. It keeps getting bigger. Here. This is all the construct chain. You know, when you read it, you don't always think about it. You just kind of read and go through, and okay, you get used to what the stuff means. But here, we're parsing it. Okay, that's all one big construct chain. So kol, all, or each, or every. Nefesh, soul, meaning life, or you can say person. Nefesh is flexible like this. Usually in mitzvot, when we see commandments, if there's a commandment that's for a man, it'll say Adam or sometimes Ish, right? If it's for a woman, it'll specify Isha, and sometimes Nekeva, like female, right? Sometimes male will be Zachar, right? Literally male. But if it's a mitzvah that applies to anybody, then usually the Torah will say Nefesh, like a soul, right? So a soul should do this, right, etc. At least this is how the sages derive which mitzvot are for men, which are for women, and which are for everybody, right? So you see nefesh. Nefesh also means a corpse in some context, like you shall not touch a nefesh, right? If you find it, if you stumble across it, you don't touch a corpse, a human corpse. It's not the same for animals. Pilga for animals. Every person who came out of the loins of Yaakov, literally coming out of. This is the construct state of Yotzeim, right? So you can see that's a construct form there. How many? Shivaim, that means 70. Nafesh, soul. 70 soul, 70 life. Yoseyph haya b'Mitzrayim. When Yoseph was in Egypt. I would say when. You could say but, because we're talking about those who are coming down, so it makes sense that it could be in opposition, but. The Vav is very flexible. Vav, verse 6. Vayamat Yosef v'chol echayv v'chol hador hahu. Yosef is the subject, and the verb is mot. It's a hollow verb, so the Vav, or the wow, disappears. It's hard to see that there was a wow there. So really this verb, the root is mem. Come on, draw mem. And then you would have had a vav or a wow in ancient times. And then tav. Mot or mawet, like this. Mut, to die. With hollow verbs that have a vav in the middle for the middle root, the second radical, that letter disappears a lot of times to make pronunciation easier. Because again, it once was a w. And w doesn't need to stand there necessarily. So Yamat means he will die. The Vav, we change the time. Then Yosef died. Yeah, exactly. I should let you do it. That's right. Good. The Chol Echayv and all of his brothers. The Chol Hador and all of the generation. Hahu. So what's Hahu? Hahu is another demonstrative adjective. Do you remember your demonstrative adjectives? Let me mark the other one that we had so far. So up here we started Shemot with Ele. Ele. Why doesn't it want to highlight? There you go. Ele is a demonstrative adjective. It's the plural form. It means these. It doesn't care if it's men or women, masculine or feminine. And now down here we have who. Who. Well, who, you obviously know the gender. Who means he, right? So Hador, Hahu. Yeah. So it's literally the generation, that one. Okay, so we don't want to say it that way in English. Say that generation, and all that generation, they all died. Verse Zion. Uvenei Yisrael paru וישרצו וירבו ויעצמו במאוד מאוד. Okay.
Like, question.
Sure.
In verse 1, uh, the habbaim is an infinitive construct or
No, good guess. They look similar. It's actually an active participle.
Active participle.
active participle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so it's an active participle just like you say in verse 5.
Yes. Just like this one. Just like this one. Here,
Yeah.
I'll color them. Here, that's a good question. Excellent. So, orange. So, Yotze'e, it would have been Yotze'im, right? Yotze'im.
Yotzeim is plural,
Plural, yes.
masculine.
And ba'im, also plural masculine, right? So these are both active participles, plural masculine. And you guys, if you're not following along with that, don't worry. We're going to talk about that today, about active participles. That's the new grammar for today. Good. Okay? All right. Zion. And the Bnei Yisrael, so that we have a construct chain. What's that? The children of Israel, right? We know this already. The children of Israel. Oh man, it didn't change to blue. The computer doesn't always select what I tell it to. Oh, blue, there it is. There we go. Trying to keep some kind of semblance with our protocol for markings. So the children of Israel, because Israel's definite. Paru. So this verb, this is related to what you say on Erev Shabbat. I almost said Shabbos, Erev Shabbat. You say, when you bless the wine, Bore Puri Hagafen, who brings forth the fruit of the vine, right? So this is a verb, it's actually parar. This is what we call a geminate. It's where you have a reduplicated consonant in the three-letter stem, and so that duplication disappears. Right? That's an advanced topic, so don't worry about it. Just know that paru means they were fruitful, right? Vayishratzu, sharatz, we saw this in Genesis regarding the aquatic life. It means to swarm, and they swarmed. Vayirbu, this one you know from Rav, like Toda Rabbah, many thanks, and they became numerous. V'ya'atzemu, atzam, this verb is related to the noun etzim, which means bone, right? And so the idea is they became strong like bone, right? They were strong people. Bim'od me'od. Why the bait is here, I'm not really sure. Maybe this is just a stylistic thing. You don't see it that way. Well, sometimes we see bim'od. I guess it's something like with exceeding, right? Or the point is we understand what it's expressing. It's saying very much. Me'od, right? Me'od. Now, it could be for gematria reasons. Maybe there's some secret there to find, right? Maybe there's some hint. Or we could look and see, if you want to investigate Gazer Shavo, to see if there's anywhere else where all the other places in Tanakh where you have bim'od me'od, then that might be useful too. Vatimale ha'aretz otam. Okay. So mala with an aleph means to fill, right? Like if you're familiar with the attributes of God, one of them is that He is malei chesed. He is full of grace, full of loving kindness, full of familial loyalty, clan loyalty. So this one here, this is in nifal. So nifal is the passive binyan usually, right? So in ancient Hebrew, this would have been vatin malei, and that's why you have the dagesh inside, right? So timale means will be filled, passive, right? What's the subject? Ha'aretz, the earth or the land. And the vav makes it past. So, and the land was filled, otam. Again, this ot, it's not the definite direct object marker, okay? It's again, just like we had up here, with. Yeah, very good. With. When we put the suffix, he changes to like that, otam, with them. Yes. And so you see there, Dr. Vera, he knows the pronominal suffixes, so he's able to blurt that out quickly. Very good. The you recognize it. Very nice. Verse Chet. And by the way, before I go on, any other questions or comments before we proceed? If you're confused or you want to know something, guys, speak up. Don't be shy.
Yeesh. That's
You guys all following along? If you
yeah.
feel
So
confused,
Shabbat is
oh, go ahead.
like
If you're confused, it's okay. Remember, we're in our immersion phase of our learning right now, right? So there's going to be a lot of stuff you don't get. That's normal. That's normal. If you haven't covered this stuff before, it's totally normal. So don't feel bad. It's okay. We're learning like children a little bit right now, although we're discussing grammar. Okay, verse chet. Vayakam melech hadash al Mitzrayim. Okay, so this is from the verb kum, another hollow verb. Kof or kuf, however you like to say that. Vav, mem. So the vav went away. So you should know kum,
rose.
right? What's Yeshua say?
Rose. Correct.
Yeah, that's right, to rise.
Boom.
Very good, rise. So yakam means he will rise. Vayakam means and arose.
Heroes.
Yeah. And who's the subject? Melech Chadash. Melech Chadash. A new king.
New.
Yep. Here's our noun. And here's our verb. I mean our
Adjective.
adjective. Thank you. Although you can make a verb from this, you can say chidesh. You can say to renew, right? Like David HaMelech says in, I think it's Psalm 51. He says, chidesh bi ruach machon, like creating me an upright spirit, a correct spirit, right? Okay. So a new king arose. Al. What's al?
Upon.
Upon or over Mitzrayim,
Over.
Egypt. Asher. You guys know the relative pronoun? Good.
Which
Which or who? Lo
or
yada
who
et Yoseyph. Did not yada.
did not
Good. Did not know
did
Yosef.
not
Very good. Very good. Okay, and then the last verse for this slide, verse tet. That's 9. Vayomer el amo. And he said unto his people, see the pronominal suffix, his am, hine, am b'nei Yisrael rav, ya'atzu
Rab.
mimenu. I think it's ya'atzu. I'm sorry, it's cut off on my screen. Ve'atzum. Ve'atzum mimenu. So he said to his people, hine, what's hine?
Behold.
Behold.
Behold, am b'nei Yisrael. So here we have a nice construct chain again. The am b'nei Yisrael. Someone's got a fan on their microphone? Yeah, nice. Thank you. I do that too sometimes. Don't worry. Ooh, I might have to mute you. Okay. So, Am B'nai Yisrael. Here's our construct chain. So, Am means people, right? You know, and B'nai Yisrael, the children of Israel. So, because B'nai Yisrael is definite, Yisrael is definite, it makes the whole chain definite, right? So let's diagram that. And also to Am. The whole chain gets these. Behold, or usually I translate, look, check it out. The people of Bnei Israel, right? It's like this is the people's name. And it's interesting because in Egyptian hieroglyphs, there's a time in Egyptian history when one of the pharaohs is bragging, probably lying, saying that he destroyed, that he totally defeated the children of Israel. The way that it's written, in hieroglyphs. Okay, I'm sorry, that mic is bugging me. I'm gonna have to mute you. Okay. Yeah, I can't think when I have that in my ear. He writes the word, it says the word, and usually there's a sign at the end of a word in Egyptian, in Middle Egyptian, the hieroglyphs, that signifies a nation, right? But in this case, it's two people, it's a man and a woman holding hands. And this is interesting. This is used to signify something like tribes that are so small, they're not yet considered a nation yet. And that's the way that Israel is spelled in this papyrus fragment that was found. When he's bragging that he wiped them out or whatever. So it's really interesting. The Bnei Israel, it seems like the Torah here is actually accurate in the way that an Egyptian king would have referred to us, right? As just the people of Israel, something like that. But not yet people. In the hieroglyphs, they would have indicated that we're a full nation, but just a people, right? You understand? Like maybe an ethnicity, something like that, but not a nation. Rav, numerous, ve'atzum, and strong, like boni, mimenu, more than us. They are more numerous and strong than us. This is just the way that Hebrew expresses the comparative. When something is more something than something else. So if I want to say Mike is better than Jack, I would say Mike tov min Jack, or me Jack, right? Mike is good from Jack is really the way you express it. And that's what's happening here. Israel is Rav ve'atzum mi menu, from us, right? So Israel is more numerous and stronger than us. Okay? But we haven't learned that yet, so it's okay if you guys don't internalize that. Now regarding the Melech Hadash, the new king, I just want to have a comment. Here's a comment from my book, Exodus Look Again, unpublished, but okay, and that's clipped on the side. I hope that's not clipped on your left side. I hope it's really just my TV. So it says, it seems likely the Israelites may have rose to power in Egypt under the hyksos rulers, the hekau chasut, as they're called in Egyptian, rulers of foreign lands. These were a Semitic people who had invaded Egypt and then ruled, right? So it would make sense that if you had a hyksos ruler on the throne, when Yoseyph HaTzadik is presented to him, that he would be more favorable to set him over all of Egypt, right? Because it seems a little bit strange if you're going to have an ethnic Egyptian making a foreigner rule over all the people, and that he might not be so well respected. But if it's already in a time period where Semitic peoples were already accepted as ruling, then it really makes everything work out nicely and fit neatly. So I personally think that the time frame of the Hyksos ruling Egypt might be when we ended up there. And later, when the Hyksos were thrown out, this might be, they were thrown out by an ethnic Egyptian named Ahmoses, right? Probably Ahmoses. In Egyptian, Moses means birth or born. So the idea is has been born. That's where you get Tutmosis. That's the god of knowledge, the god of reading and writing. Toth has been born. You get a lot of names with Moses in them. This history makes Yosef's rise to power and acceptance by Pharaoh all the more plausible, and the new king's fears perhaps well-founded, because they've already been invaded by Semitic people, and here you have another Semitic people, so he's thinking, forget these guys, let's enslave them, right? So it's not just an utter wickedness on the part of the king. We say that he didn't know Yosef, right? But they want their freedom. And you remember, those of you who listen to my drashot, I kind of found it questionable. Again, who am I to judge? But it just seems questionable that that Yosef decided to enslave the Egyptians for Pharaoh. That they basically became like his slaves. He owned their very lives. To establish that precept, that principle, to make that kind of as a norm, it almost seems like, well, the Talmud tells us that we're judged neged keneged neged, right? Or mida keneged mida, measure for measure, right? And that might even be part of the justification for our own enslavement, because we prospered while the people who lived in that land were actually subjugated. All right.
A question.
Sure.
Ah, regarding the hyksos, so is it based on what was I come to understand that, or I made to understand, based on your what you've written, that the hyksos were in power when Joseph rose to power also.
I think
Was
so.
the were the hyksos okay? And then they were overthrown by the ethnic Egyptian,
Yes.
uh, and who did not know the descendants of Joseph.
Right. And I could be wrong on this
Uh,
because Egyptian timelines are tricky because the way that time works in Egyptian history, eh, you start a new calendar every time there's a new king born, I mean, who comes to power, right? So it'll be like the third year in the reign of Tutankhamun or whatever, right? And then you'll have like the fifth year in the rule of so and so. And so if you have a gap of a king or something, it throws off the time scale where the history is. Egyptologists like to pretend like it's all set in stone, it's all perfect, but really, every once in a while they find a whole new king that nobody knew about, who wasn't in some king list or whatever. So yeah, so from my perspective, it fits well, and the timing is pretty close to what is accepted. I mean, when I say close, I mean within a few hundred years for it to work out nicely. And it just makes sense, right? Like, why would you allow an ethnic foreigner to rule the entire nation, right? Unless you also are related to him, you're also Semitic people, then it makes a lot of sense, right?
mhm.
Okay.
Well, after the Red Sea incident, when many of the Pharaoh's armies were drowned, is it true, or I'd like to clarify that Egypt was invaded again by the Hyksos because they have a very much diminished army. That's why they were vulnerable.
Not only the Hyksos, by many foreign powers. There was a group known as the Sea Peoples that also invaded, and even Nubians who were always bashed by Egyptians, they invaded. It's interesting because in Egyptian history, there's an entire period of time of literature known as the Lamentations, right? And it's funny because, well, not funny, but it's interesting because the Egyptians, they were always optimistic in their history. Whenever you read the history, it's great. The Pharaoh's great. He's so smart. He knows the will of the gods. He knows what offerings to make, and we won. And so you actually end up with a scenarios where the king of Egypt is losing over in Canaan. There's one, for example we have where he's losing against the Hittites, right? But the way the Egyptians report the history is first he beat them over there, and then he beat them in the Sinai, and then he beat them by the Nile, and then he's back home again. Which they're retreating, right? They're retreating. They're not beating them, but the way that the Egyptians would record their history, it's positive like this. So it's very fascinating that I believe after, like you said, after we pass through the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds, whichever is correct, the Yam Suf, the Septuagint says Red Sea, but the Yam Suf in the Hebrew, once we pass through, after that, you have this, I think that's when you have this Lamentations time, where there's writing that complains how, the noble girl is on the street wearing sackcloth, and the beggar is wearing silver jewelry, right? Silver was worth more than gold at a certain time in Egypt. And so everything is upside down. The all of the Egyptian order is the ma'at they call it, is out of whack. And it talks about marauding armies. They come in and they loot whichever city they like. There's no army to stop them, basically. And so, yeah, I think you're correct. I think that's a nice fit for us, especially when you consider that the culture did not usually record things negatively. And then suddenly we have a lot of literature complaining about how horrible everything is. And various armies are coming in. So, yeah, the Hyksos and also others would just come in and they do raids, right? And then they go back home.
Mhm.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Again, I reserve the right to be wrong on those things. I'm amateur in Egyptian stuff. I like it. Okay, verse Yod 10. This is what the Pharaoh says. Hava nitchakema lo. Come. Hava, it means like, do it. Do it. Like, we say, Hava nagila hava. Like, come, let's be glad, right? So Hava, come. Nitchakema. So the root here is chacham. Chacham. So you probably know chokhmah. Well, it really doesn't want to draw. There we go. It finally caught up. The computer's thinking about it. He's taking his time. So chacham is to be wise. Excuse me. And this is a hitpa'el form. So it means like, let's make ourselves wise. Let's deal wisely. Let's deal shrewdly. Right? Literally, let's show ourselves wise. This form only occurs twice in the Bible. So those of you who like to do Dvar Torah words, teaching, stuff like that, there might be something to investigate this and to find out. I don't know offhand where the other place is. And the shrewdness was in not fully enslaving the Hebrews. This is what we're taught in our tradition, that it's not so shrewd to just take over somebody, right? What's shrewd is to do it bit by bit. So first they said, hey, why don't you help with this? Why don't you do this public works project? Why don't you do this? And then the people slowly became acclimated to servitude instead of the kind of position of nobility that we had been in. And so, there's even a midrash that says that the Pharaoh himself would go out wearing like a stone, a brick around his neck, to show that he also was doing the labor. And this actually might be true because in Egyptology we learn that there were often public works projects in Egypt. So, for example, the pyramids were largely not built by slave labor. They were largely built by volunteer farmers because they had like a season where they would farm and then they were out of work. And so everybody would come together, they do these public works, projects, and we found papyrus fragments that say things like Khufu's work gang did good work today, and stuff like that. So it was like something that the society was doing together, right? And sometimes for pay, sometimes just for the spirit of it. So it makes sense. So the midrash says that the Pharaoh went out carrying this brick around his neck to embarrass the aristocrats among our people who'd say, like, I don't do that kind of menial labor. Look at my fingers. I don't have calluses. So then the foreman could say, look, even the Pharaoh is carrying a brick. Right? It's just a story. It's a midrash, but I think there might be some truth to it in that it was bit by bit we were lulled into this, and then finally came the final enslavement. And it's interesting. It's also a nice metaphor. C.S. Lewis, in his book, The Abolition of Man, he comments that a wicked man does not go from being good to wicked overnight, but it's a series of steps that lead him towards the wrong path. It's a bad paraphrase, but something like that. It's a decision, a bad decision, then another bad decision, then another bad decision, and then you're enslaved to Egypt, you're enslaved to sin. Okay. And we find this midrash in the Talmud, tractate Sota. So the Sota is the woman who's been accused of adultery, and she goes and gets tested by the Kohanim. Page 11 on the first part of the page. Okay. Pen Yirbe, so he's still talking. Last Yirbe, it becomes Rav, right? Numerous. V'haya, and it will be, Haya as it was, V'haya, and it will be, or become, Ki tikrena, or it should happen, okay. And if it happens, that, tikrena. So be careful with this. This is kara number 2. We have 2 kara verbs. The one that you've learned means to call or to summon. Kara 2 is to happen, right? Like to occur. So, and this is a feminine form, right? And it happens, what happens? Go ahead.
War.
Milchama, that's right, war. Milchama, so it's feminine. That's why this is feminine. So war shall happen. This is imperfect. So he's in the future. In the Greek, this would be the subjunctive, right? V'nosaf gamhu al senonenu v'nilcham banu ve'ala min haaretz. So nasaf, this is from yasaf. Yeah, that's right. Very good. And this is the nifal form, so it's passive. So nosaf is it was added. The vav changes it, so and it will be added. Gamhu, also him, or it, meaning the Bnei Israel. Al, so al, don't get stuck on it meaning over on top of. Oftentimes it means with, right, like along with. Like when Pharaoh has his dream, he's al sifat hayor on the bank of the Nile, the strand of the Nile. It's like, and then it talks about the cows, and together with them there were al, it was with them. So, seno'enu. So, sana is the verb. Sana. Sana means to hate, right? So, sone, one who hates, that's an enemy, right? And then you have your pronominal suffix, nu. Our haters, right? Literally, our haters. You think that's a new phrase today to say, don't be hating, or he's just a hater. They used it also in the Bible. So, our haters, which means our enemies. Then nilcham. Okay, so lacham. This is one of those words where the nifal is not passive, okay? Lacham means to fight. Nilcham is to fight, okay?
Fight.
Yeah, to fight. And it will fight. Nilcham means it fought, and it will fight banu, against nu. Yes, against us.
Us.
Good. The Allah, what's Allah?
Allah. The Allah.
Go up.
Yes,
Christ.
go up. Yep.
Right.
And the vav makes it future. So, and it will go up, min haaretz, from the land. And it's kind of interesting. I have this thought in my book where I point out that why would the Pharaoh care if his enemies would leave the country? And so I think this shows the spiritual impetus, perhaps the demon that's whispering in his ear, right? Like, we can't let them go and be free. They must be enslaved, right? They have to leave out of the land. So he has like 2 goals. One is to make sure that we don't help their enemies, the hyksos, if they come back, maybe the hyksos. And the other goal is to make sure we don't leave. We never leave Egypt. That's what the enemy is wanting. And of course, it's interesting when you understand that part of God's goal for bringing the Bnei Israel into Israel, and this I get from Dr. Heiser's The Unseen Realm, is that it was to help wipe out the Anakim, the giants, right? The twisted interbreeding between humans and fallen Bnei Elohim, fallen sons of God. And so Israel is used in this task. And we even see in the book of Joshua that Joshua killed all of the Anakim except in Gath. And later, that's where Goliath came from. He came from Gath, right? So there's a giant left. And so it's interesting. So you would understand then that the demons, if we go with Enochian theology says that demons are the spirits, the disembodied spirits from the dead giants. When they died, Their spirits did not rest like human spirits do, waiting for the resurrection, but instead they're cursed to roam the earth aimlessly until the day of destruction. They have no hope, they have no future. And so it would make sense that you have some demons or some fallen sons of God who don't want Israel to leave because the perception is God might use us to wipe out where most of them are, which is in Israel. Okay. Verse 11.
Question, please.
Sure.
Sir, uh, regarding the word nous, how
Yes.
come it came to nusaf? Nous is added. How come it become nusaf?
I don't understand. Why did Nus become Nusach, are you saying?
Nous is added, right, sir? Nous is
No,
added.
no.
Yes,
Nus means to flee, to run away. But where do you see it? Where are you looking at it here?
Nous, the word nous. What is the word nous,
If it's
please?
Nun Vav Samech, it means to flee, like to escape, to run
To
away.
flee. Run away. Sir. How come it ended with pay nusaf? What's nusaf then?
Nusach is a different word. This means tradition, right? Like if you buy a prayer book, a Siddur, there'll be like Nusach Ashkenaz, right, which is the German Jewish prayer book, right? That's like what I have. And then there's Nusach
No,
Sephard,
sir.
which is like the Spanish Jews.
Nusaf.
Yeah, it's like a tradition. It's a way of doing things.
I think she refers to Venosap that may join
Where do you see it here? I think that might be the next page.
here in the
Oh,
Milhama
Venosaf.
Venosap.
Nisnosaf. Okay. Yeah, this is the verb yasaf. Yod, it's a pay yod verb, which you haven't learned about yet. If that means the yod is in the first position. If you have a verb that starts with a yod, the yod oftentimes disappears. Or it actually, technically, it's replaced with a wav, a vav. And so the verb is yasaf, which means to add, right? To add to. That's Yoseyph's name, right? He's added. He's added to me also this one, Rachel says, right? And so nosaf, the noon, is passive, makes it passive. So will be added also him or it. You see? Do you understand?
Yeah. So it's in the Nepal, the Nosaf.
Yes.
Okay.
Nosaf,
Thank you.
What's
nosaf
the
is nifal, perfect, third person, masculine, singular. Nosaf means he was added, is what it means. And then the vav here gives us the vav conversive, it changes the time. And he will be added, right? Meaning the Bnei Israel. Is that good? Do you understand? Did it clear it up, or is it worse?
I thought the word added is nous, and my question is
No.
how come there's pay at the end?
Okay, yeah, no, it's not. It's not nous. If this were the verb, these letters here, nous instead of nos, it'd be a shurik here. That means to flee, to run away. But that's not what this word means. You understand? The root of the word, you always have to
Yes,
figure
sir.
out the root, right? The root, which are the three letters usually, sometimes two, but usually the three letters that make up the word. The root is yod, which is not present here. That's why it's confusing. I wrote a little yod up here. See that yod? Yod, samech, fe. That's the verb. The verb is yasaf. And so if you look up in a dictionary,
Ah,
yasaf, it's not nos, it's yasaf. Yasaf is the root. The noon is a preformative. It's added on there to make a different verbal stem, or binyan as we call it in traditional grammar terms used by the rabbis. So nifal, which basically just means the verbal stem, which is usually passive, right? So yasaf, if it said by Yosef or Vayasaf, it would mean and he added. But because it says Venosaf, it means and he
passive.
will be added, right? He will join, something like that.
Okay.
You understand? It's literally added. People
Yes.
just say join in English to to sound better. The idea is you got some enemies, they're big in number, and then you get more enemies added to them. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
good
And
question.
then with the word lakam, just like the word lakam, the nilkam for
Yes.
the Nepal.
Yes.
The root word is lakam.
That's
Thank you.
right.
Lakambe, that's like that.
That's right. The root
Okay.
is
And then
lacham.
nilkam.
Yep. And this happens
Oh,
to be a strange one. That lacham happens to mean fight. When we have the noun lechem,
yes.
which means bread. So who knows? Maybe early on people
Lakambe.
fought over bread or whatever. I'm not sure.
Fight over the bread.
Yeah. The etymology is not always clear why these things happen. Yeah. Or it could even be that they're just. Sometimes we have words like kara where they're written exactly the same, but they're different Semitic roots. They happen to be different words. They're just what we call homographs, which means homo, like the same, graphe, written, right? They're written the same, but they are different words. Okay?
Katabjire.
Just to make
Just
sure
like
it's not too
katabjire.
easy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure, sure. Okay, good questions. Any other questions or comments before we move on? Okay. Verse 11. Vayasimu alai sarema nisihim lema'an anoto besivlotam. I really wish I knew a cooler trope system like the Yemenite singing system. The Polish Ashkenazi just seems kind of boring sometimes. Okay, so sim is the verb. Sin, yod, mem. I almost said samach. It's sin. And that means to set or to place. Sometimes it means give. Usually to set or to place. So yasimu, this is the imperfect, third person, plural form. Yasimu generally means they will set or they will give. They will position, something like that, okay? And then we have the vav here. We swap the time. So they set,
They
yeah, exactly. They set al, what's al?
upon
Yeah,
him.
yes,
Upon
very good. Upon him. We keep
alive.
using him, right? Him referring to the Bnei Israel. Here's him up here. Look, him. Who is him? Right, him. Here's the him. Yep, good. And then here's the subject. What was set upon us? Sarei misim. We have a construct chain here.
A prince, ruler.
Yeah, very good.
Sar from the ruler.
Nice.
Ruler, misim.
Yep.
Sim.
Misim are tasks.
Yep.
Tasks, like kinds of labor, right? It's related to the word mas. Mas is mem, but it has a patach under it, right? There'd be a patach, just the ah. Mas actually means forced labor. So you can see how this is related to that misim. So just like you said, princes or rulers of forced labors, right? Of labors, of tasks. Sar can be a bit more flexible. Sar can also mean like an officer, someone in charge. So probably maybe foreman or something like that. But it's totally fine to translate the way you translated. Taskmasters is how that's traditionally translated, right? Masters or princes of tasks, right? Lema'an, in order to, this means in order to, so that, anoto, anoto. This is a bit harder to see. So ane with a hey is to afflict or to oppress. It can also mean rape if it's used in certain contexts with a woman, right? It can also mean to humble, right? So in order to oppress, oh, him.
Him.
Yes, good. Oppress him. Can you see what happened there? The hey became a tav, right? Whenever we put a suffix on a word that ends in a hey, that hey goes back to its ancient Hebrew form, which doesn't show up that often in the Bible. By the time the Bible was written, we're already using SBH, Standard Biblical Hebrew. But there is an ancient Hebrew, and we see little traces of this sometimes. Liberal scholars call it Old Semitic. I call it ancient Hebrew. Besivlotam. So, Beit, Sevel is, or pardon me, Sivla is a, and also Sovelet. You see the Sivla and Sovelet. This means work. Yeah, work relating to bricks, like brickwork, like you see they're doing in the picture here in the background. Huh? So be means with, not in, but with, and then the at the end. What's the
Them.
Yeah, that's right. So
Them.
with their brickwork, something like that, or brickworks. Yeah, that's a word in English. Brickworks. Vayiven arei miskenot lefaro et pitom ve'et ra'amzes. So this word is hard to recognize. It's a lamed hey verb. It's bana with a hey at the end. Okay, so the root is beit, nun,
Build.
and hey. That's right, to build. So yiven means he will build. Vayiven means he built. So and he built, meaning again it's he. Going back to Israel, we have a construct chain here. Arei miskanot. miskenot. So arei, this is the plural construct form from the word ir. Ir meaning city. So cities of miskenot. Miskenot from sachan, to store up. Like storage cities, right? For Pharaoh, Piton, and Ramses. Verse Yod Beit 12. וכאשר יענו אותו, כן ירבה וכן יפרוץ. But, according to how, that's really what kasher means. Usually we'll see this like, he did according to how Hashem had commanded him, right? Something like that. But, according to how, ya'anu, they afflicted, that's the same as this word up here, these are the same. They afflicted, they oppressed, oto, him, again him, meaning Israel, Cain, thus, yirbe, he grew rav, right? He grew numerous, v'chen, and thus, yifrotz, paratz means to burst out, to burst out. We also see this word meaning something like to blossom. Like in the winter you have the buds on a flower are closed, and then the spring comes, and then suddenly in one day, everything opens up. Boom, it like bursts out. Paratz. So this is what's happening with the Bnei Israel. We are paratzim. Oh, I had this comment up here I forgot to share with you about the taskmasters being set over them. And so the book of Yashar, which the authenticity of this book I would call into question, because the Hebrew that's used in it is a late Hebrew. But anyway, it could be that these stories survived, right, and were just written down in the Middle Ages or something. But according to the book of Yashar, it claims that the entire Egyptian populace participated in the enslavement of our ancestors, right? And there's a story that even later, when the women are trying to hide the male babies, that the Egyptians would bring in their own babies, and they would coo, and then the other babies would respond. Again, these are stories, but you can see how the ancients are trying to understand how it is that the entire nation of Egypt could be punished, right, for what's happening allegedly just by the Pharaoh and his officers. And the answer is that it's the entire people enslaved. And you could almost understand this happening if they've been ruled by foreigners, right? Xenophobia sits in and get these foreigners out of here. And the Hyksos even did weird stuff. They worshipped Seti, which is almost like the devil in Egyptian lore. So there's some really weird stuff. And I mean, all their gods are like the devil, but to them, he's like the bad one who kills his brother and all this weird stuff. Okay, the Parats. There's a midrash that the Hebrew women were birthing 5 and 6 babies at a time. That this was what Hashem was miraculously doing. So even though they're oppressing us, and the point of the oppression is to try to make us, the Talmud says, to be too tired to procreate, right? So men would come home from work and just want to sleep, that's it. But what would happen is, it only took one time, and then the lady would have 5 or 6 babies. Again, just tradition. Vayakutsu mipnei bnei Israel. And they were disgusted from before the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel. So, we have an interesting comment here. Kotz, to feel disgust or repugnance for or dread. There's a midrash that tells us that the word choice informs that the Bnei Israel were as kotzim, thorns, in the eyes of the Egyptians. This is according to Midrash Agada. V'ya'avidu Mitzrayim et Bnei Israel v'farech. Okay, so avad, you guys know. Avad, to serve. Right? And from this we get the word eved, a servant or a slave. Ya'avidu, imperfect, you should know this form now. They will enslave. Becomes they enslaved. And Egypt enslaved the Bnei Israel. Befarech. With, the beit here meaning with, this is the word ferech, actually, if you try to look it up in dictionaries. Ferech. Ferech means harsh labor. Really harshness. It literally means harshness. So they enslaved them with harshness. Any questions before we go to our next slide?
In verse 10, the tikrana, ki tikrana is from the root word kara,
Yes. Yes.
and it means and they were called
Well,
to war.
it's a
So they were called to war.
well, you could interpret it that
Okay.
way. Although usually this is seen to be kara number two, which is a different root. So even though it's written the same as kara to call, which that's totally plausible how you translated it, it's usually interpreted to be uh, this other root that looks the same. It's a homograph. Kara, which means to happen, to occur,
Mhm.
something like that. But the way you interpret it also makes sense. You could say war calls, right? Something like that. If in war calls, right? Maybe they did use that idiom. That's totally possible.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yep.
Good.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, next slide. This is our last slide for the Aliya Yomi. Verse Yod Dalet. ואמרו את חייהם בעבודה קשה בחומר ובלבנים וכל עבודה בשדה, sorry, okay. Marar, this is the verb from which we get the term maror on Pesach. When you eat the maror, the bitter herbs, so the verb marar means to,
Bitter.
that's right, to make bitter, right? So yimaruru, they will embitter, vaimaruru, and they, or so they embittered. What did they embitter? Definite direct object, chayehem. What's that mean?
Yehem. Okay, lives. Their lives.
Yes, good. Their lives. Their lives. Ba avodah
Uh,
kasha. So the bait again, you could translate in, but I'm going to go with avodah kasha. This means back-breaking labor or extremely harsh labor. Bechomer, this is with asphalt or like with bitumen. Yeah, with asphalt rather. Uvilvenim, and with bricks. Uvechol avodah basadeh, and with every kind of avodah, labor, which is in the sadeh, field. And notice it's in the field. You see, everybody, remember your footprint for ha? How would I say in a field if I wanted to say in a field instead of in the field? This
come
says,
again?
this says in the field. How would I say in a field? What would I,
In a field.
what would I change this patach to? To be
Shwa.
yes, very good, shwa. If it said be sadeh, it means in a field. Because it's ba sadeh, it's in the field. Because of course, ha sadeh,
Definite.
that's right, the definite article, ha, pretend the bait is in here, with this footprint and this dagesh, from ancient Hebrew hal, right? Hal, the lamed goes inside the scene there, and so we have the footprint from the hal. And so the bait just moves on in and the hay disappears. And so in the field. Nice. Et kol avodatam asher avadu vahem befarech. Okay. So again, this eight, it goes back to the same verb. So they embittered et chayehem. They embittered et kol avodatam. All
All
of their
their labor.
labors, asher avadu, which they served,
They labor.
bahem, in them, befarech, were, we have to say were to make it make sense in English, were with ferech, with difficulty, with harshness. Verse tet vav. So again, you guys know the rule, right? We have yod dalet. Before that, we had yod gimel, yod bet, yod aleph. And down here in 17, our last verse, you have yod zayin. Why is this not a yod here?
Because it the signature of Adonai.
Yes, very good.
We don't have
That's right. We don't want to use even the nickname of Adonai, just a short Yod Hey form, like in Hallelujah. We don't want to use that in a mundane use to even be 15. So instead, we do 9 plus 6. And we do 9 plus 7 for the next one, and then we're back to business as usual. So, Vayomer Melech Mitzrayim. So here we have a construct state. I'm not going to mark it. The king of Egypt. Then the king of Egypt said, La, or probably so. So the king of Egypt said, to miyaldot. This is the word for like nurses, like midwives. It's related to the word yalad, to give birth, right? So, and you can see it's feminine. Miyaldot, he said to the miyaldot, to the midwives, this is the noun, and here comes the adjective afterwards. Ha-ivriot, Hebrew. And notice, la, to the midwives, and the dagesh has fallen away here, but there would normally be a dagesh. Ha-ivriot, to the Hebrew midwives. Asher hu, shem ha'achat, shifra. What shem?
Name.
Good. Name. Name. So, and here we have it's kind of hard to see. It's a construct chain. So it's shem ha'achat. So I'll use it green.
One. The one.
Yeah, that's right.
One name.
That's right. Well, because the last word is definite, it makes the whole chain definite, right? So let me just change to orange to mark our definiteness.
The names of the midwives.
That's right. Very close. The name of the one was, we have to say
Of the
was,
one.
Shifra.
One of the Sifra,
Yep.
the shame, and the name of the second one.
Yes. Very good. Was Pua.
Pua.
Pua. I'm just going to mark it. So we have the completion here. The completeness. Another construct here, right? It doesn't want to. There we go. Okay. Verse 16. Vayomer beyaledechen et ha'ivriot uiten al ha'avnaim. So he said, when you assist birthing, so chen is a pronominal suffix. This is the plural, second person feminine, right? He's talking to the two midwives. When you two assist in birthing, or when you birth, literally, the Hebrewisses, kind of hard to bring that in English, and re'iten, so re'iten means you girls saw, but the and changes it, and you will see al upon
Yes.
ha'ovnaim, ovnaim. So the word is Evan. What's Evan mean?
Remember.
No?
Remembrance.
No?
Evan. Stone.
Yes, good. Stone.
Evan.
Stone, good. And ovnaim means two stones, right? So when you see upon the two stones, this is the dual ending, right? So this is interesting. He's telling them to see if it's a male or female, right? And we have a nice, interesting detail about actually the way birthing was done in Egypt here. We know from historical records that Egyptians, they used what's called birthing stones. They'd have two stones, and the woman would sit on the stone or position over the stone, so there's a gap, right? There's a gap between the stones. So gravity would assist with the birth. And so we actually have this, it's a little nice bit of internal evidence in the Bible that there's real Egyptian stuff happening here, because this was not the practice in Israel later. But there's real, it's a nice piece of Egyptian history. Again, a signature that the Bible is really true and that it's historically authentic. All right. So when you see upon the two birthing stones, im ben hu vehamiten oto. Im, what's im?
With.
With is with, it's an ayin. Ayin mem is with, but aleph mem is
If.
what?
If.
Good, if. And the way you
If.
can remember this, there's a little trick. Whether im means if or with, you think in English, if and with. The I comes before the W. And now you think in Hebrew, im and im, right? The aleph comes before the ayin. So that's how they map up. So if it's an aleph, it's if. If it's an ayin, which comes later, it's with, where the W comes later. Maybe that'll help. Okay. If bainhu, what's bainhu means?
Pain. Sun.
Yeah. Yeah. If son, he, right? Remember, we think like Yoda, a son is he.
It's
Right? So we have to insert is, right? So if he's a son, then hamiten, you should kill him. This is a hethel form from
Kill.
met. Met is to die, hethel is to cause to die, so to kill. Then you ladies, 10, will kill Oto. What's Oto?
Oto. Him.
Him.
To him. DDO him.
Exactly. Ve'im bati vechaya. But if bati, what's bati?
Again. What? Again,
Daughter.
come again.
But,
Daughter.
daughter,
Daughter.
he. And what's he
Her.
mean?
Female, she.
Yeah, that's right. She.
He.
Yep. So if she is a daughter, v'chaya, then chaya means
Let him
yeah,
live.
let it live is really what it's saying, right? We would expect chayita, but it's chaya, then it will live. Which you can almost see the degradation and the dehumanizing that Pharaoh's doing by the fact that this isn't even the feminine form of the verb, right? It's like it, then let it live. Yod Zayin. ותראינה המילדות את האלוהים, ולא עשו כאשר דיבר עליהן מלך מצרים. But תראינה המילדות, the midwives,
But
תראינה.
if you see,
This one's
if
not.
you see her,
This one's not from C. That would be Resh Aleph Hey. But this verb is Yod Resh Aleph. What's that mean? Yara. What's Yara mean?
yara,
Yara.
to fear,
Yes.
to fear.
Very,
Fear.
very good. So, but the midwives, they feared et Elohim, the God. They feared the God. Velo asu, so they did not asa. This is lamed hey. There was a hey and the hey is gone. So they did not do ka'asher. Remember I said this is according to how? Diber alehen,
Word
spoke
of
to
the fear.
them. Pronominal suffix hen, right? What's that hen?
El, Elohehen, Elehen.
Upon them.
That would be
And then,
al with an
so
ayin.
that,
Female.
This is el.
Female.
And
That's right, feminine, yes? Yes, good.
unto
Feminine
her,
unto
plural.
them.
Good. And this is with an
unto
aleph.
them,
It's
female.
not upon them. That would be ayin. So el
Uh,
to them,
and
right? So they did not do according to how the Melech Mitzrayim, the king of Egypt, Diber, spoke alehen, unto them. Vatechayena et haladim. But they allowed to live. Techayena means literally they lived. They lived, right? But we understand. They allowed to live. The Yeladim, the boys, the boy babies. Yeladim is boy babies. Yeladot is girl babies. Woo! Nice, Aliya, isn't it? So much
yeah.
happening. So much rich history. And okay, so any questions or comments?
I forgot my question.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm
About
laughing with you.
in what's that? Uh, Im bain hahu hamiten. That's in verse.
It's 3
What's
lines
that
up to the
verse?
bottom, right here. Got it.
Yep. Oh,
Verses.
the and the noon is signifies. Is it a suffix?
Good question. Good question. It's actually part of the form of the verb. See over here how we have the noon and the aleph and the ah at the end. Not aleph, sorry. Na. Oftentimes this will be with a hey, but sometimes the hey is defective and it just goes away, right? So this form of the word tirena means talking about women. Those ladies will fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? Hamitain is the normal form. It's the perfect form, second person feminine, right? So ten is the end that we put on a verb, right? Like Amar ten, you ladies said, you
Yep.
ladies spoke. So Hamiten is
Aim.
you ladies murdered, right?
Uh-huh.
And then the Vav
Yep.
changes it. And you shall murder, you will murder. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Got it? We
Okay.
could have put a suffix. He could have said Vahamiteno. He could have put O on the end there if he wanted to. But instead we've got
Uh-huh.
Oto instead.
Yeah.
Good question.
Good.
Go ahead, I feel there's another question.
Excuse me. So the other one, the Vayiterena, is the nun is a suffix. Vatirena. The nun is a suffix.
Yeah, in this one, this is a little bit unfortunate. This is actually part of the imperfect third person plural ending, but the
Uh,
hey has fallen away in this one. So we instead of tirena, which means they will fear, but they feared. You see? So
Mhm.
what's happening is here, the Pharaoh uses, I'm just going to be a little blunt, I'm going to say he uses a past tense form, and then the Vav makes it future, right? Here we have a
Mhm.
future form, and then the Vav makes it past. You understand? So tirena,
Yeah.
usually with a hey, like we had tikrana on the previous one, the previous page, right? That's the feminine third person plural. When ladies are doing
Third.
it, it's that.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
The thing that made it confusing, the thing that threw me off, is usually when we have a perfect form and we put a vav in front of it to make the time change, usually the formula is vav with a schwa underneath. A schwa underneath, those two dots, right? But what happened here, look, you try to put a schwa, but you violate the rule. You can't have two schwas in a row to begin the word. So instead, we get compensatory lengthening. So this schwa that my mind was expecting to see there, it lengthens instead to the value of the composite schwa. So that's why it's ah. So it's not like over here where this is actually an imperfect form plus vav. It's actually, this is perfect form plus vav, but we can't have schwa because that's not allowed. You understand? The landscape moved a little bit. You guys understand? It's a bit advanced.
Yes, sir. So kamet is the whole word.
Patach, patach.
Kamat or kamet is the whole
Oh
word
yeah, yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
murder.
Hamiten, hamiten. The verb is mut, right? Mem vav tav, which means to die, to die. Like in the last
Yes.
parasha, Yaakov says that
Mavet.
meta Rachel,
Mm.
right? Al hader, that Rachel died, right? Meta. But when you put in the hefil form, with that little hey here, this means it's to cause to do whatever that value it is, right? So to cause to die
That's
means to murder, right? To kill, right? To murder. So so
oh,
hamiten means
hit
you
ill.
ladies cause to die, and then the vav changes it, and you will cause to die, right? Or shall, either one.
Regular verb.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
So
thank you.
sure.
so Bahamiten is in the hipil form
Yes,
or PL.
yes,
Okay. Now again, the dagesh in Vatirena,
yeah.
the dagesh in the top is a not a begad kefat signifier, but a
Verb conversive.
Yeah, it's because Vav conversive. Usually Vav conversive, when we have an imperfect form of the verb and we put the Vav in front, the pattern usually is Vav, Patach, and then Dagesh, right? But the Masoretes, sometimes they decided not to bother with it when it's a Yod form, like Vayomer, and so oftentimes they'll just leave the
Mhm.
Dagesh out because it's so normal. But sometimes they do leave it in. Here you can see it's in Vayomer.
uh,
Vayomer, there it is.
yep.
We have the Dagesh. But you can expect to sometimes see that Dagesh not there. So that's why it's there. It's just part of that pattern for the Vav conversive.
Okay. I forgot that
So
already.
That's all
so
right.
doctor. So this is also a hipil form. Question, please. Is this also in hipil form?
No, nope. The verb is yada, yada. That's the
Ah,
root.
okay, Yara. Okay,
Yeah, yada. To fear, right?
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So tab the represents for the Yalda, the female, the bear, ano, the midwives,
Yes,
the tabs.
yes,
Right,
exactly.
thank you.
Yep, the tav and also the noon at the end, and we would have expected a hay, right? But the hay fell away. And to understand why the hay falls away here, it's actually okay because the hay was a vowel letter. Remember, before we had the nikudot, before the Masoretes added the dots on the bottom and up on top and stuff, hey oftentimes meant that this is an ah sound at the end of the word. Like to spell the name pu'ah. If you couldn't use the comments here, it's okay. We still say it's pu'ah because you got the hey at the end, right? But the Masoretes, they understood this was a defective way to write the word, and so they give us the comments to say, hey, there really should be a hey here. And you could, of course, get very deep and say, well, why is the hey not there? Is Hashem trying to tell me something with gematria, or is there another place in the Bible where the word is in this form without the hey? And you can kind of dig around and see if there's some remiss, some deeper meaning there, why it's that way. But the point is, it's defectively spelled. But in the Masoretes, they got our back. They put the comments there, so we know to say na at the end. Okay?
Thank you. Now I know why Doc's asking for the he at the end.
Ah,
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Other comments? Look, we see it down here also. Look, techayena. This one also does it, right? So techayena,
Yes.
they will let live, right? This is actually a PL form. So you have the strong dagesh in the yod there, right? So the PL, the intensive form of to live is like to let live, right? So Tichayena, they, ladies, will let live. But then we have the Vav conversive, Vatichayena, but past tense, they let live. Et haladim. Good? Okay. Any more? Or are we done with the Aliyah? Nice, it's good. I'm glad you guys are grappling with it. Again, those,
Last.
oh yeah, go ahead.
The Vahamit, I forgot what you said. The Vahamiten is in the hip PL form.
No. The Hamiten is Hefil. This one's Hefil. That's what that hey is. The hey is the
The
Hefil.
hey.
Yeah. But down here on the bottom line, the Vatichayena, this is PL form.
So intensive, passive. So both are
Not
intensive.
passive.
One
Not
is active, one is passive.
PL isn't really usually the passive form, but it's not passive because the subject is the one letting the thing happen, right? It's not saying, and they were allowed to live, right? Nope, the women are the ones doing the letting living, right? Or preserving life. Maybe it's better to think of it this way, to preserve life, right? So in the call, it's to live, and in the PL, it's to preserve life. Does that make sense?
Uh, yep.
If it was in the Hefil, it would mean to cause to live, right? Like they shaped clay like a man and they caused it to become alive, something like that.
Mhm.
Good? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, Yoseyph.